Employee Free Choice Act, I got a little bit of grief on that if nobody was watching. There were just, what were there, TV, radio, and robocalls, all within about, what, 3 or 4 months after I had gotten sworn into office. So, boy, they went out on the attack. And here's the good news. So many people in the district listened to those ads, and they called back and asked us a lot of questions. We went on radio, and we told people why we had done what we had done. And I'll tell you what brought the entire conversation to a grinding halt was when I said something like 30,000 people, these are according to the NLRB, 30,000 people are reinstated every year for after they have been fired for doing nothing illegal. They sign their card check, and then they go after them at that point. And that's what I would certainly ask with you go out with me with that message. Brought the conversation, as I say, to an absolute grinding halt when I, on talk radio a few times, said, where is the outrage? Why aren't people lighting up these phone lines saying, why were 30,000 families thrown into total distress, because they had done nothing wrong? And we all know what the penalty is for firing somebody who's done nothing wrong. Do we all know what it is?
Nothing.
Reinstatement with back pay. That's it. No penalty. No penalty. And so that was one that I was very glad that they came after me about, because I knew why I had voted for it. And I was very proud to have been there, not only to vote for it, Andy and Will, but to have co-sponsored that bill. So thank you very, very much. And I just have one request, and that is, next year, can I not have to go after Dennis McKinney, please? Can I make one small request? He is so good, and he's done so much to teach me a lot about this whole thing of running for office. And again, I just can't thank you all enough. You are the reason. We went out and got boots on the ground. We put up signs. We did all the bumper stickers. We took tons and tons and tons of newspaper inserts around the 2nd District. And you guys went out there and worked your butts off. We'll just that'll be we've got the press here. We'll put it that way. But let me just say that America, in fact, we have had quiet times in this country. We've had times when our government actually ran pretty effectively. We had times when we could sit back, relax, worry about the job, the kids, the mortgage, and we felt like government would be there to kind of take care of itself, and we weren't needed that much. But today, our country is very hurting. We have seen just negligence, incompetence, corruption, and just blind partisanship on the part of those that we trusted to lead us. These are times today that demand that each one of us get involved, and I know I am preaching to the choir here, but the demands that we get involved and we work for change, but not just any change. We need the right kind of change, the change that you helped bring to Kansas in 2006. When Kansas looked at Congress 2 years ago, they saw a branch of government that was so messed up, broken almost beyond recognition. The culture of corruption ran deep. The whole earmark process had run amok, and our veterans were being virtually ignored. When we look at Congress today, it looks a lot the same still. It's still a pretty messed up place. It didn't get this messed up overnight, as we all know, and it's not going to get fixed overnight either. But I want us to remember that we can actually see real glimpses of hope, real things out there that are changing in Washington. And as we're so concerned about what's going on, let's not lose the perspective of what the good things that have actually been done in these last 2 years. But the reason that we are seeing change in Washington comes from this seat that nobody on God's green earth expected us to win. And we all know that. But when we said we're going to demand that things are different in Washington, it not only made a change here, but it stood up and got a lot of attention in Washington, D.C., when we in Kansas started demanding a new direction. And we are actually beginning to get it. A few years ago, thanks for mentioning this, Andy, a few years ago, corruption wasn't just running rampant in Congress, it was actually being well paid. We had members of Congress who had been convicted of bribery, embezzlement, fraud, members of Congress, and you and I were paying their pension. It was not only rampant, it was a good paying thing. We paid Dan Rostenkowski $126,000 a year out of our taxes, and that needed to change. But nobody in Washington, this is what I found so amazing. You said I was proactive, thank you. Nobody in Washington had done anything about that. Nobody stood up and said this is crazy and we need to change it. But in the first month that I was in office, we got that bill through. It passed the House unanimously, and today it is the law of the land. And that's the kind of change. That's the kind of change that we need in this country. Just a few years ago, earmarks were so out of control. In the 10 years before, do you remember who was in Congress those 10 or 12 years? Yeah, okay. In the 10 years before, earmarks had gone by a factor of 10. They had increased tenfold in 10 years. Billions of taxpayer dollars were being wasted. The most egregious was that bridge to nowhere, something like $200 million for a bridge to nowhere. And worst of all, the public didn't even know what was going on. It was a broken system with broken accountability, with zero accountability, and zero transparency. But it wasn't anything new. People had complained about this in Washington, just like the ethics problems, complained and complained and complained for years, but nobody did anything about it. So CNN put my picture up for a whole weekend and called me a maverick because we were among the very first in our nation, certainly the first in Kansas history, to make all of our earmark requests open to the public. These are projects that not only bring good jobs to our communities, but these are projects that help our communities with roads, with wastewater treatment plants, with the kinds of things that you get out there and help build for our communities. And I'm proud to go out and ask to see if we can get some funding on behalf of our communities. But it demands transparency. And when you have transparency, this corruption goes away. Why? After so many years, nobody had done anything about it. Just didn't make any sense. Now, I will throw in parenthetically, too, that out of 6 members of Congress, 4 in the House, 2 in the Senate, 2 of us, can you guess which ones? 2 of us put all of our earmark requests online. 4 didn't. And they're the ones who are standing up saying that we have to rein in corruption, that we have to rein in the spending. Fine. You can do that. You can make a difference by doing that yourselves. So we can go out and hold them accountable for that as well. But putting those earmarks online, that was the right kind of change. And it was a very bold move, but it was the right kind of change that we were looking for.